I want to start with a story that's becoming far too common. And it's one of those stories that makes your stomach drop. And not because of the money, but because of what it reveals. A caregiver recently told me that her mother, a woman who had always been so generous but cautious, fell for what looked like a simple holiday fundraiser. She said that her mom saw that a local family had lost their home in a house fire and that the pictures on Facebook look real. A burned out frame of a house, a couple holding each other, kids wrapped in blankets, and it all looked so real. She said her mom had always had a soft spot for situations just like this one. And so she sent $50 to help this family out during the Christmas holidays. But later, what she discovered was that messages were coming through her Facebook that sounded so personal and so warm. And they were messages like, "Thank you so much, but the children are still without heat. Could you help just a little bit more?" Then more messages, a volunteer coordinator asking for gift cards, a church member saying that a family needed emergency funds. And by the time her daughter realized what was happening, her mom had sent thousands of dollars to people who didn't even live inside this country. Scammers who had never had a fire, never had a family that needed any help, and certainly weren't in crisis. But this is the part that really stayed with her. She said, "I knew something was changing in her mom's mind, but she didn't know that this could be a sign of dementia and that she needed to take things so seriously." Because sometimes scams just aren't scams. Sometimes they're the very first sign that a person is losing their ability to judge risk, filter emotions, and see those red flags. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to walk you through why scams are skyrocketing during the holidays, why people with dementia or even those in mild cognitive decline are especially vulnerable. We're also going to cover the biggest scam targeting older adults right now and discuss that gap that caregivers fall into that nobody warns you about. And at the end, I'm going to show you how to get the Holiday Communication Toolkit. It's a free resource that not only helps with the holiday conversations, but also helps keep you connected to the work we're doing behind the scenes to close those caregiver gaps. So why do scams love the holidays? Well, the holidays are that perfect storm. People are emotional, people get distracted, people are spending money so quickly, and scammers know this. They actually count on it. And when dementia enters the picture, the vulnerability of your person increases. Not because your loved one is naive, but because of what's changing inside of their brain. There's actually research showing that scam susceptibility is not just bad luck. It may be one of the earliest signs of cognitive decline. One study found that older adults who were more susceptible to scams developed Alzheimer's years earlier than those who were not. Even when they appeared cognitively normal at first, scam-related behaviors, answering unknown phone calls, clicking on suspicious links, trusting those strangers, were early clues that the brain's decision-making center was changing. That's huge, and almost nobody talks about this. This doesn't mean that every scam equals dementia, but it does mean if you're seeing new patterns in decision-making, trust, or financial judgment, it's definitely worth paying attention to. Because scams aren't just financial risks, they're neurological red flags. So let's talk about the most common scams, not to overwhelm you, but to make you aware. First off are the fake charity scams. These are those emotional, urgent, and heartbreaking. Fire victims, sick children, veterans needing help, church fundraising, and a neighbor in crisis. This emotional pull bypasses the brain's filtering system, especially in someone whose processing speed is much slower. Then there's the packaging and delivery scams. Your loved one might be getting texts that say, "Your package is delayed. Click to confirm." Or, "We couldn't deliver your gift to you. Click to confirm." One click, fake website, compromised information. Holiday shopping makes this feel so believable. Then there's the helpful people who aren't safe. Sometimes the scammer is a paid or hired caregiver. Maybe it's their neighbor or a distant relative they haven't seen in years. And sometimes it's someone who has access to their mailbox, checks, or private information. And this is why caregivers say, I feel like I have to watch everyone because I didn't know that I had to be an investigator too. And they're right, because the system never prepared families for situations like this. And here's the part that most caregivers don't realize. You're doing the work of a financial advocate, a risk analyst, and a security officer on top of being a caregiver. No one prepared you for this, not the doctor, not the discharge nurse, and not the brochures that talk about memory loss, but say absolutely nothing about financial vulnerability. But studies have found that scam susceptibility often precedes cognitive decline. Financial missteps can start 6 years before dementia diagnosis. And people with early brain changes are far more at risk than those without. And this isn't about irresponsibility. This is about neurology and the brain's ability to function. And you deserve to know this because you're the one who's filling in that gap. The gap where families are losing thousands of dollars, sometimes their savings, and sometimes even their homes. So you might be sitting there asking yourself, why does this even matter for you? Well, scams aren't just bad people doing bad things. They're a mirror that reflects how vulnerable a person's brain has become. And when you start noticing in your person unusual generosity, secrecy around their money, or impulsive decisions, that's your cue to step in. Not because you want control, but because you want to protect your person. You're not being intrusive and you're not overreacting. You're responding to a very real, very predictable gap. And this is where you can shift caregiving from helping to truly advocating. So before we wrap up, I want to give you something to support you through the rest of the season. I created a holiday communication toolkit, and it's completely free. It includes scripts and gentle phrases for navigating family conversations this holiday season, but it also includes something much bigger. It keeps you connected and it keeps you informed. It keeps you in the loop for what we're building next, because caregivers deserve more than scattered tips and disconnected advice. You deserve a place where these gaps are named out loud, understood, and supported before they become a crisis. Downloading that toolkit is the easiest way to make sure you never miss the next steps of what we're creating inside the Care Shift. And this new approach is designed for caregivers who are tired of being left out of the conversation until it's by far too late. And there's no pressure, no obligation, just complete support, and a way to stay close to the work we're doing to make caregiving feel less isolating, less confusing, and less reactive. If the holidays have brought up new concerns, this toolkit will help you start the right conversations gently, confidently, and with new language that protects everyone involved. And until next week, I'll be here sharing for you while you're caring for them.